In every generation of sport, there are athletes who win, athletes who dominate, and then there are athletes who transcend, who break barriers that were never supposed to be broken, who change not just their sport, but the world around it, who prove that greatness has no color, no background, no limit except the ones we create ourselves.
What might he achieve in the future? Lewis Hamilton wins! Surely the first of many for Lewis Hamilton. The world is at his feet.
Lewis Hamilton, 7 Formula One World Championships, tied with the legendary Michael Schumacher for the most in history. 103 Grand Prix victories, more than any driver who has ever lived. 104 pole positions, numbers that seem impossible, records that may never be broken, but the numbers do not tell the real story. This is not a story about a rich kid with connections who was handed opportunities. This is a story about a black boy from a working-class town who was told he did not belong, who faced racism at every karting track, who had to be twice as good to get half the recognition, who had a father that worked 3 jobs so his son could chase an impossible dream.
You need to have an angle that people are interested in, and obviously as the only black youngster in racing at the moment, I wouldn't be adverse to using Lewis's colour as a means to getting on, but to be honest, I don't feel I have to do that.
This is about conquering a sport that was not built for someone like you, about being the first when everyone said there would never be a first, about winning so much that even the doubters had to shut up, about using your platform not just to collect trophies but to change lives. Lewis Hamilton conquered Formula One, not just with speed, not just with talent, but with determination that refused to accept no for an answer. Stevenage. January 7th, 1985, Stevenage, England. A small town 30 miles north of London. Working class, diverse, not wealthy, not the kind of place that produces Formula One world champions. This is where Lewis Carl Davidson Hamilton is born. His father, Anthony Hamilton, is black of Grenadian descent. His mother, Carmen La Balestier, is white British. Lewis is mixed race. In 1980s Britain, that means something. It should not matter, but it does. Anthony and Carmen separate when Lewis is 2. Lewis lives with his mother before eventually moving in with Anthony and his new wife Linda. The family struggles financially. Anthony works as an IT contractor, takes on extra jobs, does whatever it takes to provide. There is no family wealth, no racing pedigree, no connections. Formula One is a world that feels a million miles away. When Lewis is 5, Anthony gives him a remote control car for Christmas. Just a toy, nothing expensive. Lewis becomes obsessed. He races it in the parking lot, against other kids, against himself, getting better at controlling it, learning throttle control, learning racing lines, learning to win.
How long have you been racing cars for already, Lewis?
About a year.
So you must be pretty good at it. Is it easy to do?
No.
What do you have to do then?
This is the brake.
That's the brake. Oh, you need the brake.
And these are the steering.
That's your steering wheel, right and left. And I'm last already. Hope you like to do that. Go back on the track. I'm going to be last. Hope it's been brought back on. And cars are over me all the time. And we have a winner. Who won the race?
At 6 years old, Lewis wins the British Radio Car Association Championship, a championship for remote control cars, his first trophy, his first taste of victory. Anthony notices something in Lewis. Hand-eye coordination that is exceptional, reflexes that are natural, a competitive fire that burns hot. He asks Lewis a question that will change both their lives. Do you want to try real karting? Lewis says yes. He has no idea what he is agreeing to. Neither does Anthony. Karting is expensive, prohibitively expensive for a working-class family. A basic kart costs thousands, maintenance costs thousands more, entry fees, travel, equipment, tires. It never stops. But Anthony makes a decision. If Lewis wants to race, they will find a way. Anthony takes a second job, then a third. He works day and night. Contracts during the week, night shifts on weekends, putting every spare penny into Lewis's racing. There are no family vacations, no luxuries. Every pound goes to karting. Linda supports the dream even though it means sacrifice. The whole family sacrifices so Lewis can race.
The reason I want to be a Formula One driver is because it's got a lot of speed in it. When I went to Belgium and I saw the actual speed that they were doing, it was amazing because you don't actually think about it when you're watching TV. and my kart feels really powerful when I'm in it. But imagine being in the Formula 1 car. Must be very powerful, that.
Lewis's dad, Anthony, is his manager and chief mechanic.
I think, leading up to the race with all the stress and the pressure and the nerves, when he finally crosses that finishing line, you know it's all over. Nothing else could happen. He's won, and it's just a fantastic feeling. I think that's the reason why I do it, I think. Just to get that last race on a Sunday afternoon.
Got it right.
Excellent feeling.
In the past years, I've had racist names being called to me. The first time it happened, I felt really upset. I told my mum and dad, and I felt like I needed to get revenge on them. But lately, if anybody had said anything to me, I'd just ignore them and get them back on the track.
We don't get involved with people who have problems about whether we win or what colour we are or whatever the issue might be for them. The fact is that we're here to race, and so we go out on the track and we do our best.
But with hundreds of youngsters looking for recognition from the big sponsors, Anthony knows Lewis's colour could be his biggest asset.
You need to have an angle that people are interested in, and obviously as the only black youngster in racing at the moment, I wouldn't be adverse to using Lewis's colour as a means to getting on, but to be honest, I don't feel I have to do that.
Some of the biggest names in motor racing, like McLaren's Ron Dennis, are already showing an interest.
When I met Ron Dennis, I asked for his autograph in my autograph book. I asked for him to put his address down and his phone number, and he wrote in the autograph book, phone me in 9 years.
Lewis starts racing karts at 8 years old, and immediately he is different. He is often the only black kid at the track, sometimes the only person of colour in the entire paddock. The stares start, the comments start, other parents whisper, other kids say things. Lewis's kart gets vandalised. Someone pours sugar in his fuel tank before a race. On track, other drivers bump him harder than necessary, squeeze him into walls. The officials give him worse grid positions for no clear reason. Anthony tells Lewis to ignore it, to focus on racing, to let his driving do the talking. But you cannot ignore racism when you are 8 years old. You can only endure it. Lewis endures it by winning. He wins the British Cadet Karting Championship. Then again, and again. By 10 years old, Lewis is dominating British karting. Not just participating, dominating. December 1993, the Auto Sport Awards ceremony in London, a black tie event celebrating British motorsport. Anthony gets tickets somehow, takes 8-year-old Lewis. They are completely out of place. A black man in a rented tuxedo and a mixed race kid in a suit that does not quite fit. Surrounded by wealthy white families who belong to this world in a way the Hamiltons never will. At the ceremony, Lewis spots Ron Dennis, the team principal of McLaren Mercedes, one of the most powerful men in Formula 1. Lewis, with the fearlessness that only an 8-year-old can possess, walks up to Ron Dennis, introduces himself, says one day he is going to race for McLaren. One day he is going to win races for McLaren. Ron Dennis is polite but dismissive. Kids say things like this all the time. Big dreams, small likelihood. But then Lewis says something that stops Ron Dennis cold. He hands him a piece of paper with contact information. He says, "Call me in 9 years and I will be ready to race for you." Ron Dennis is impressed, not by the claim, but by the confidence, by the audacity of this 8-year-old kid handing him a business card. Ron Dennis tells Lewis to keep him updated. It is a polite brush-off, but Lewis takes it seriously. Over the next few years, Lewis sends letters to Ron Dennis, updates on race results, championship victories, never asking for anything, just keeping the promise, staying in touch, reminding Ron Dennis that Lewis Hamilton exists, that he is winning, that he is getting closer. The racism does not stop as Lewis gets better, it gets worse. Success makes you a target. Other parents complain that Lewis has unfair advantages. What advantages? He has a kart his father can barely afford, no fancy team, no professional mechanics, just Anthony in the paddock with a toolbox. The advantage Lewis has is talent, and that makes people uncomfortable. Lewis learns early that he has to be perfect. White kids can make mistakes and get second chances. Lewis cannot. He has to qualify on pole, he has to win. Anything less and people say he does not belong. The pressure is enormous for a child, but Lewis does not crack. He thrives under it, uses it as fuel. Every racist comment, every unfair penalty, every time someone tries to push him out, he remembers, and he wins. The climb. Lewis is 13 years old. The McLaren Young Driver program offers him a contract. It is unprecedented. Formula One teams do not sign kart racers this young. But Ron Dennis kept his word from that night at the Autosport Awards. He has been watching Lewis, receiving the updates, seeing the results, and he sees something special. McLaren will fund Lewis's racing career, pay for everything. In exchange, Lewis agrees that if he makes it to Formula One, he will drive for McLaren. For the Hamilton family, it is a dream come true. The financial pressure is lifted. Anthony no longer has to work 3 jobs. Lewis can focus purely on racing, but the pressure is different now, bigger.
I'm just overwhelmed to even be in Formula One and to be in the team that I've always dreamed of being with. But to come to my home Grand Prix, leading the World Championship and own my first year, this is way beyond anything I could have ever imagined or way beyond my ambitions. But I'm not going to be disappointed if I don't win the championship. I was just hoping to do a good job. So I'm sure if I just continue doing the job I am doing, then we'll have to wait and see what happens at the end.
Lewis is representing McLaren, one of the most prestigious teams in motorsport. Any failure reflects on them. For a 13-year-old, that is an enormous weight. Lewis does not crack under the weight. He wins.
I think Lewis Hamilton is going to take his first win of the season under a red flag, as he just got in front of Tom Sisley before the safety car came out. Well, certainly a brilliant drive in very tricky conditions. There we are, the red flag has been brought out. No great surprise. And Lewis Hamilton will take his first win of the season after surviving these very difficult conditions at Silverstone. But it's going to be Lewis Hamilton taking his first win of the year. He took 3 wins last year. He came in as the pre-season favourite. Pressure's been tough on him. He hasn't taken a win up to this point. He went off at Brands Hatch, but here he comes to take his first win of the season, and he will be absolutely delighted about that. So will the boys at McLaren, who support Lewis Hamilton.
The British Formula Renault Championship in 2003, the Formula 3 Euro Series Championship in 2005, dominating, breaking records, making it look easy. But it is not easy. Formula racing is different from karting. The cars are faster, the competition fiercer, the stakes higher.
Now just look at 3rd and 4th. Van der Garde now is losing touch with Adrian Sutil, and he's being caught by Lucas Di Grassi, who was a race winner twice at Thruxton last year in the British F3 Championship. He has moved across to the Euro Series this year, and the Brazilian, who is still based in the UK, is now closing on the Dutchman Van der Garde ahead of him. Here's the replay. He's on the tail of Van der Garde, who blocks him. Di Grassi hits him. Oh my word! The car flips right over across the tarmac, upside down into the gravel. It gets launched, and that is an enormous accident. Through he goes. Lewis Hamilton didn't seem to do any defending at all there, almost let him by. To James Rossiter, who comes out of the last corner to take the checker flag, and that is a superb drive in very difficult conditions. James Rossiter wins round 2 of the F3 Euro Series, and look at this between Guido van der Garde and Sebastian Vettel. They're absolutely together. This is a great scrap at the last corner. Vettel up on the inside. There's contact between the two of them there. Vettel's nose cone is dislodged. It's for 4th place as they come across the line. Van der Garde will just take it though. Sebastian Vettel right on his tail.
There is his outstanding win by 14.1 seconds from...
Lewis adapts, learns, evolves, shows maturity beyond his years. Every level Lewis conquers, people say the same thing. He has the best equipment. Of course he wins. McLaren money, McLaren support. But plenty of drivers have had factory backing and failed. Plenty of rich kids with the best equipment finish nowhere. Lewis is different. The talent is undeniable. The work ethic is relentless. The hunger never fades. GP2, the final step before Formula One. The championship where future stars prove they belong. Lewis joins Art Grand Prix as a rookie. His main competitor is Nelson Piquet Jr., son of a 3-time Formula One world champion. Nelson has been in GP2 for 2 years, has experience. Lewis is the new guy, the rookie. He should need time to adapt.
Hi, I'm Lewis Hamilton. I'm racing GP2 this year with ART, and I just hope that I can win the GP2 championship this year, and let's step into Formula One next year.
Lewis does not need time. He wins the first race of the season, then wins again and again. The championship becomes a procession. Lewis wins 5 races, takes the title with 2 rounds remaining. He becomes only the second driver in GP2 history to win the championship in their rookie season. He is ready. McLaren has decisions to make for their 2007 Formula One lineup. They have signed Fernando Alonso, the reigning 2-time world champion. He is their marquee driver, their star. For the second seat, they could promote Lewis, or they could sign a veteran. Someone experienced, someone safe, someone who will not challenge Fernando. Ron Dennis looks at the data, Lewis's testing times, his racecraft, his ability to extract performance. Lewis is faster than the veteran options, significantly faster. Ron Dennis makes a gamble. He promotes Lewis Hamilton to Formula One for the 2007 season, straight from GP2 to the pinnacle of motorsport. Partnered with the best driver in the world, 0 Formula One experience, maximum pressure. The announcement shocks the paddock. Fernando Alonso and Lewis Hamilton at McLaren, a 2-time world champion and a rookie nobody outside junior formulas has heard of. Fernando signed to be their #1 driver, to have the team built around him, to dominate. Lewis's promotion changes the dynamic. Fernando is not happy. He expected a compliant teammate. Lewis is anything but compliant. Pre-season testing reveals what McLaren already knew. Lewis is fast, not just fast for a rookie, fast period. His lap times match Fernando's, sometimes exceed them. The media starts paying attention. Who is this kid? The narrative becomes Alonso versus Hamilton, champion versus rookie, experience versus youth. But the smart money is on Fernando. Rookies always struggle. March 18th, 2007, Melbourne, Australia, the Australian Grand Prix. Lewis Hamilton's Formula One debut. He qualifies 4th, an incredible result for someone who has never raced at this level. But qualifying and racing are different. The expectation is Lewis will score points, maybe finish in the top 8 if he avoids trouble. Nobody expects what happens next. Lights out, the race begins. Lewis gets a perfect start, moves up to 3rd, then 2nd. He's racing wheel-to-wheel with Fernando Alonso and Kimi Räikkönen, the best drivers in the world, champions, veterans. And Lewis is keeping pace. Lap after lap, he holds position. His tyre management is perfect, his pace is controlled, his racecraft is flawless. When the checkered flag falls, Lewis Hamilton finishes 3rd, a podium in his first ever Formula One race. On the podium, Lewis sprays champagne next to Fernando and Kimi. He looks calm, like he has done this before, like he belongs. Fernando finishes 2nd, 1 position ahead, but he expected to dominate his rookie teammate. Expected Lewis to be 20 seconds behind. Lewis is 1 second behind. The dynamic is set. This season is not going to be easy for Fernando. Malaysia, 2nd race. Lewis finishes 2nd. Bahrain. Lewis finishes 2nd again. Spain. Lewis takes pole position, his first pole in his 4th Formula One race. He leads the race but finishes 2nd to Felipe Massa. 4 races, 4 podiums, 2 poles. Lewis is not just participating, he is challenging for victories for the championship.
It's a beautiful afternoon here in Montreal, and when Lewis Hamilton opened his hotel room door this morning, he will have seen his own face staring up at him from the front pages of the Canadian newspapers. But if he wins this race this afternoon, I think he'll be front page news all over the world. So can he do it? Can Lewis Hamilton convert his first pole position into that first victory? You bet he can. When the 5 lights go out, the Canadian Grand Prix will be underway. Go! Alonso's away well. Lewis tries to counter him, and Heidfeld, there's a flag at the back, but it looks like Heidfeld's attacking Hamilton. Alonso goes to the outside. Has he made it? He's run wide. He's cut the corner. If he takes the advantage, which he can't, he's done what he did in Spain. He's gone for broke, and it's cost him. Alonso loses out. Heidfeld's up in the 2nd place. Alonso drops to 3rd, and he's got a Ferrari nibbling all over the back of him. But Lewis Hamilton leads in Montreal. Well, Jenson Button, I'm afraid, has stalled on the grid, so he's being pushed off as I speak to you.
And this is from Heidfeld in P3 on the grid, and he got away best, and he's thinking about a look down the inside, has a sensible tablet, he realised it wasn't going to happen. Meanwhile, Alonso charging across the grass, and well, he got away with it, didn't he? A much more significant bounce through the gravel in Barcelona, so hopefully he won't have too much grass in that radiator. This is the 2 Ferraris, and Rosberg touches the back of Massa. Both Ferraris connecting then in
That's
turn
Räikkönen,
2.
sorry, Räikkönen tapping the back of Massa, I think.
Yeah, sorry, and then Mark Webber is going to go steaming into turn 1, having just passed Kubica, and he's gone in too deep, and that, of course, then is a replay.
The media cannot process what they are watching. Rookies do not do this. They crash, they make mistakes. They finish outside the points while learning. Lewis is racing like a 10-year veteran. The composure is remarkable. The speed is undeniable. The consistency is perfect. It makes no sense. But the results speak for themselves. June 10th, 2007, Montreal, Canada, the Canadian Grand Prix. Lewis qualifies on pole position, leads from the start, controls every lap. When he crosses the finish line, he wins. His first Formula One victory, in only his 6th race. The emotion is real. On the podium, Lewis is smiling but composed. In the McLaren garage, Anthony Hamilton is crying. This is what they worked for, what they sacrificed for. The boy from Stevenage just won a Formula One Grand Prix, the first black driver to ever do so.
For you, your understanding of sport, what it's like for a young sportsman, when Isaac Hadger had to come back after that moment, that ended the race before it had begun for him. What kind of empathy did you feel for him at that time?
Something, when I saw it happen, my heart just sank for him. Not just for him, for his parents, for everything that they'd done to work hard to get to this one point, and it's like snatched from you, after all these years. And the thing is, I've been there, I've had that pain with Lewis, and Lewis has also had that pain as a race driver, where championships have, been taken away from us as such. And I just felt terrible for him. So I just thought, you know what, I need to go and tell this kid, keep your head high, walk tall, you're going to come back. I think he's a phenomenal driver. I really do. I think there's more to come from Isaac than we probably have seen this weekend.
The championship fight becomes real. Lewis, Fernando, Kimi Raikkonen in the Ferrari, 3 drivers, 3 teams, 1 title. But the real battle is internal. Lewis versus Fernando, teammate versus teammate. McLaren tries to manage both drivers equally, equal equipment, equal strategy, equal support. Fernando expects preferential treatment. He is the 2-time champion. He deserves #1 status. McLaren refuses. The tension explodes.
To that first Grand Prix victory. There he is. Well, he's rewriting the book of what is possible in Formula One. If he can do this after 6 races, what might he achieve in the future? Lewis Hamilton wins! Surely the first of many for Lewis Hamilton. The world is at his feet.
Heartbreak and glory. Hungary 2007. The tension between Lewis and Fernando reaches breaking point. During qualifying, Fernando deliberately blocks Lewis in the pit lane during a crucial moment, ruins Lewis's lap, costs him a chance at pole position. The team is furious. The FIA penalizes Fernando, but the damage is done. The relationship between the 2 McLaren drivers is destroyed. They barely speak. The atmosphere is toxic. The championship goes down to the final race. Brazil, Interlagos. Lewis leads the standings by 4 points over Fernando, 7 points over Kimi. All Lewis needs is a top 5 finish to become world champion in his rookie season, making history, becoming the first black Formula One world champion. The pressure is unbearable. Race day, disaster strikes. Lewis's car develops a gearbox problem during the race. He is stuck in neutral on the track, loses massive amounts of time getting back to the pits. The issue is fixed, but he has dropped to 18th position. He fights back through the field, finishes 7th. Not enough. Kimi Raikkonen wins the race and the championship by 1 point. Fernando finishes 2nd in the championship, Lewis 3rd. The disappointment is crushing, so close to making history, so close to the impossible dream. A rookie finishing 3rd should be celebrated as a massive achievement. But Lewis came within 1 point of winning it all. The what-ifs haunt him. What if the gearbox had not failed? What if Fernando had not blocked him in Hungary? What if things had been just slightly different? The loss teaches Lewis something important. Being good enough to win means nothing if you do not actually win. Fernando Alonso leaves McLaren. The toxic relationship with Lewis and the team makes it impossible to continue. Lewis is now McLaren's lead driver. The team is built around him. No more politics, no more internal warfare, just Lewis and a championship to win. But the pressure multiplies. He came so close last year. Can he actually finish the job? Or will he always be the driver who almost won as a rookie, but never won again? 2008. The season starts poorly. Ferrari is fast. Felipe Massa wins the first race, then wins again. And again. By the 4th race, Massa has 3 victories. Lewis has 0. The media questions his ability. Was 2007 a fluke? Can he handle being the team leader? Lewis stays focused, stays calm, works with the team. Spain, Lewis wins, then Monaco, then Britain. Suddenly the championship is alive. Lewis and Massa trade victories throughout the season. The points swing back and forth, neither can pull away. Spa, Belgium. Lewis and Kimi Räikkönen battle in the rain. It is spectacular racing, wheel to wheel, millimeters apart. On the final lap, Lewis cuts a chicane slightly while overtaking Kimi.
Well, he knows where they are at the moment. Kimi Räikkönen is pushing hard though. He's intent on getting the lead. And Räikkönen set the fastest, my goodness me, I can't believe my eyes. 1 minute 53.8, that's 2 seconds faster than any lap in this Grand Prix so far. Wow!
He gives the position back immediately. Then re-overtakes Kimi on the following straight using his superior speed. Lewis crosses the line first, wins the race, or so he thinks. Hours later, the stewards investigate. They decide Lewis gained an advantage by cutting the chicane, that he should have waited longer before re-overtaking. They penalise Lewis 25 seconds, take away his victory, give the win to Ferrari. Lewis is furious. McLaren appeals. The appeal is rejected. The penalty stands. It feels like the FIA is helping Ferrari. Lewis uses the injustice as motivation. November 2nd, 2008. Brazil. Interlagos, the same track where Lewis lost the championship last year, the final race of the season. Lewis leads the championship by 7 points. He does not need to win, he just needs to finish 5th or higher to guarantee the title. Massa needs to win and hope Lewis finishes outside the top 5. The race begins in dry conditions. Massa is fast, he takes the lead. Lewis is running in a safe position, 4th place, good enough. But then the weather changes. Rain begins to fall, light at first, then heavier. The track becomes treacherous. Drivers are spinning, crashing, gambling on strategy. Lewis is running 6th, 1 position outside where he needs to be. Final lap. Lewis is still 6th. Massa wins the race. Ferrari celebrates in their garage. They think they have won the championship. On the final corner, Timo Glock is struggling on dry tyres in the wet. He is slow. Lewis passes him, moves up to 5th, crosses the finish line, 5th place. Just enough. Lewis Hamilton wins the 2008 Formula One World Championship by 1 point, the smallest possible margin. The emotion is overwhelming. Lewis screams on the radio. The McLaren garage erupts. Anthony Hamilton is sobbing. Felipe Massa's family went from celebration to devastation in seconds. Someone tells them Lewis finished 5th. The championship is gone. It is the most dramatic finish in Formula One history.
Oh my goodness me! Hamilton's back in position again! 100,000 local hearts sink in the grandstands. It's handed the place back to Hamilton. He comes through, and if I'm absolutely right, I'm sure that he is going to claim 5th place, which is all he needs to do to become the 2008 Formula One World Champion, Lewis Hamilton. And you will... Well, the Ferrari boys are celebrating, but
they both think they won, but Ferrari
are wrong. They're absolutely wrong. Hamilton's finished 5th. You will never see a more dramatic conclusion to any motor race, let alone a Grand Prix, than that. And the result of it all is that Lewis Hamilton is the world champion.
Lewis is 23 years old, the youngest world champion in history at the time. More importantly, he is the first black driver to win a Formula One World Championship. The barrier is broken. The achievement is historic. Not just for Lewis, for everyone who was told they did not belong in motorsport, for every kid who faces racism and keeps pushing, for everyone who refuses to accept that their background limits their future. Britain goes crazy. Lewis is a national hero, a world champion. The doubters are silenced, the racists are quiet. Lewis proved he belongs, proved he is not just good but great, one of the best drivers in the world, and this is just the beginning. But the cost of this achievement is rarely discussed. Anthony Hamilton gave up years of his life, worked himself to exhaustion, missed family moments. Linda Hamilton supported a dream that consumed their family finances. Young Lewis carried the burden of knowing that if he failed, he would waste his father's sacrifice. The pressure of that knowledge from age 8 onwards shaped who Lewis became, the perfection he demanded of himself, the inability to accept failure, all rooted in the weight of his father's dreams. The wilderness years. 2009, the regulations change dramatically, new technical rules. McLaren gets them wrong. The car is slow, uncompetitive. Lewis, the reigning world champion, cannot win races. He scores only 2 podiums, finishes 5th in the championship. For a driver of his caliber, it is humiliating. Lewis experiences what it is like to have a car that cannot win, regardless of how well you drive. The frustration builds. Lewis knows he is as fast as anyone, but the car lets him down week after week. He handles it with professionalism publicly, but privately, he learns a harsh lesson. In Formula One, the car matters, maybe more than the driver. You can be the most talented person in the world and still finish nowhere. 2010 and 2011 are better but not good enough. McLaren improves, Lewis wins races, but he is not consistent enough to challenge for championships. Sebastian Vettel and Red Bull dominate. Lewis finishes 4th in 2010, 5th in 2011. The best years of his career are being wasted. 2012 brings hope. The McLaren is genuinely fast. Lewis takes 7 pole positions, wins races, battles with Vettel and Fernando for victories, but reliability destroys his championship challenge. The car breaks down, pit stops go wrong, strategy calls cost him wins. By mid-season, Lewis has had enough. He is leaving McLaren. September 28, 2012. The announcement breaks. Lewis Hamilton is leaving McLaren to join Mercedes. The news stuns Formula One. McLaren is a top team. Mercedes is a midfield team at best. Why would a world champion leave a top team for a struggling one?
You once said, when I first got to the sport, I was like, I've got to do everything I'm told, and now I don't do a lot of what I'm told. I think you were poolside in Thailand, you said, when contemplating the switch, and that was when you ultimately decided to make the move from McLaren to Mercedes. What was it, poolside, that you thought about that made you decide to finally make the jump?
I kind of relate it to living at home. You know, when you first move out and get your own apartment and you take on those responsibilities on your own, that first step of independence. And I was in a team where I was very much a part of the family, you know. They were protecting me in all sorts of ways and also controlling in a lot of ways. And to make a decision myself, no one influenced my decision to move. So I did all my due diligence myself and then came to the conclusion that this was a move for me. Whilst everyone said it was the worst thing that could die. The worst decision, I've ruined my career, blah, blah, blah. And now we won 2 world championships. But so it's quite satisfying in that respect. What I had to do is really, I made notes, the pros and cons of my options that I had. And there were good bits and bad bits about either way, you know. Staying at McLaren, I thought that, you know, geez, the car that I've helped build and grow to where we are now, most likely.
You've been there since you were a teenager.
Yeah, and we just missed out in 2012 World Championship. And with an improved reliability, maybe we'd had a chance of winning the championship in 2013. So I was like, I could sacrifice that. I don't want to sacrifice the short term for the long term goal. And that's coming to this team, for example, that was like 5th best at the time.
The media calls it career suicide. Ron Dennis feels betrayed. McLaren fans are angry. But Lewis sees something others do not. Mercedes is investing heavily, hiring the best people, building for the future. Lewis believes in them, believes in the project. He is betting on himself. 2013. Lewis's first season at Mercedes. The car is not good enough. He finishes 4th, wins only 1 race. The critics say they were right. Lewis made a mistake. He threw away his career for money. Lewis ignores the noise. He knows something is coming. The regulations are changing for 2014. New hybrid engines. And Mercedes has been preparing for years. During these years, Lewis grows as a person. He moves to Monaco. He dates high-profile celebrities. He becomes interested in fashion, attends fashion weeks, wears bold outfits. The British media criticizes him relentlessly, says he is not focused on racing. The criticism Lewis receives is different from what white drivers receive. The double standard is obvious. Lewis starts to recognize it, to understand that racism does not stop when you become successful. It just becomes more subtle.
It's been great so far. I love it every time I come here. City's just incredible, and great architecture, and people seem to be, obviously so international, so just so welcoming. We have great support here. Every year we come, seems to be more and more support for racing for Formula One, so I think they're growing and getting used to Formula 1 here.
If they could have asked you any question in the world, and they've just deposited all the questions right here, so we are going to drag one out, ask you, and then yeah, we'll all hear your answer. All right?
Okay, so you get the pleasure.
You know what? Why don't you get the pleasure? Yeah, you get the pleasure of the first one, and I'll draw the next one. Can you read it?
Yeah. What do I like about racing? Is that Audrey Tay?
Audrey Tay.
Audrey Tay. What I love about racing, I love the competitiveness. I love, wheel-to-wheel racing. We race at almost 200 miles an hour. I think it's just just race to be the best. That's what I love doing, and I've done that since I was a kid. So, but it's not just in racing; it's in every sport and everything. I compete in everything pretty much. So, good luck to you if you want to compete in anything. But I'll do everything I can to win, apart from cheat. I drove a go-kart for the first time when I was 5, and I used to race remote control cars when I was I think I was 4. So, and I was racing against adults at the time when I was 5. So, and I was beating them.
His relationship with his father becomes complicated. Anthony was Lewis's manager for years, but Lewis wants independence, wants to make his own decisions. They separate professionally in 2010. The split is painful but necessary. Lewis is becoming his own man. Silver dominance. 2014. The new regulations arrive. Turbo hybrid power units. Most teams struggle. Mercedes does not struggle. They built the perfect engine, the perfect car. They are in a different universe, and Lewis Hamilton is about to unleash years of pent-up frustration. March 16th, 2014, Melbourne. Lewis takes pole by 6/10, an eternity. He leads every lap, wins by 25 seconds. It is a statement. Malaysia, pole, victory. Bahrain, same story. 3 races, 3 wins, 3 poles. But there is a problem. Lewis has a teammate, Nico Rosberg. They have known each other since they were teenagers, were friends. But friendship does not survive when you are both fighting for the same championship, in the same car. The battle between Lewis and Nico will define the next 3 years. Monaco 2014, qualifying. Lewis is on a flying lap, about to take pole. Then Nico makes a mistake, locks up, goes into the escape road, brings out yellow flags. Lewis has to abort. Nico keeps pole. Lewis accuses Nico of doing it deliberately. Nico denies it. The stewards believe Nico, but Lewis knows the friendship is over. The season is filled with tension, on-track contact, team orders controversies, strategy arguments. But Lewis is better, more consistent. He wins 11 races. Nico wins 5. Lewis's car develops engine problems in the final race. He is told to retire. Lewis refuses. He manages the issue, finishes the race, wins both the race and the championship. His second world title, 6 years after the first. The move to Mercedes is vindicated. 2015. Mercedes is even faster. Lewis is even better. He wins 10 races, dominates Nico, wins the championship with 3 races remaining. Lewis Hamilton is now a 3-time world champion, tied with Ayrton Senna, his childhood hero. Lewis is not just a great driver, he is an all-time great. 2016 is supposed to be more of the same. Mercedes is the best car, but things go wrong. Mechanical failures, bad starts, strategy mistakes. Nico is more consistent. The championship goes to the final race. Lewis wins the race and tries to back Nico into other drivers. The tactics do not work. Nico finishes second. Nico wins the 2016 championship. The loss hurts. But something shocking happens. 5 days after winning the championship, Nico announces his retirement, immediately, walking away at the peak of his career. The mental and emotional toll of fighting Lewis for 3 years was too much. He achieved his goal and escaped before having to do it again. Nico's retirement tells you everything about Lewis. Fighting him for a championship is so psychologically brutal that it broke a driver good enough to beat him. Nico chose to walk away from millions rather than face another season against Lewis. That is the effect Lewis has. He does not just beat you on track, he breaks your will. Chasing history. 2017, Nico is gone. Valtteri Bottas joins Mercedes. Valtteri is fast, but not Nico fast. The internal war is over. But a new challenge arrives. Ferrari has finally built a championship car. Sebastian Vettel is their driver, and he is ready to fight. The battle between Lewis and Sebastian is spectacular. 2 multi-champions, 2 generational talents, trading victories. Spain, Lewis wins. Monaco, Sebastian wins. Britain, Lewis. Germany, Sebastian. This is racing at its highest level. But Ferrari makes mistakes. Strategy errors, reliability failures. Sebastian makes unforced errors, crashes in Singapore, crashes in Germany. Lewis stays calm, stays consistent. By the season's end, Lewis pulls away, wins the championship with 2 races remaining. His 4th title, tied with Alain Prost and Sebastian, 1 behind Fangio, 2 behind Schumacher. 2018, Ferrari is even faster. Sebastian dominates the first half. By summer, he leads comfortably. Everyone thinks this is Ferrari's year. Then it falls apart. Sebastian crashes in Germany. His home race crashes in Monza, crashes in Japan. The pressure gets to him. Lewis does not crack. He wins when Sebastian crashes, capitalizes on every mistake. Lewis wins his 5th world title. He passes Fangio. Now only Schumacher is ahead. The racism Lewis faces evolves but never stops. Comments about the car being too good, about Mercedes' dominance making it easy. When Schumacher dominated, he was a genius. When Vettel dominated, he was brilliant. When Lewis dominates, people say the car is too good. The double standard is obvious. Lewis starts speaking out more openly about inequality, not just in racing but in society. He uses his platform to call out injustice. Some fans love it, others tell him to shut up and drive. Lewis does not care. He understands that silence is complicity. 2019. Mercedes is still the best, but Ferrari and Red Bull are closer. The championship is competitive. Lewis has to fight for every victory. He wins 11 races. Max Verstappen is a genuine threat. Young, fearless, fast. Lewis wins the championship with 2 races remaining, his 6th title, 1 away from Schumacher's record. The chase for history is on. 2020. COVID pandemic. The season is delayed, shortened. When racing resumes, Mercedes is faster than ever. Lewis is better than ever. He wins race after race. At Portugal, Lewis takes his 92nd career victory, surpassing Schumacher's record of 91 wins. The emotion is visible. Schumacher was Lewis's hero, the man he idolized. And now Lewis has more wins. The record that seemed untouchable is broken. But 2020 is about more than racing. In May, George Floyd is murdered. The video spreads worldwide. Protests erupt. Black Lives Matter explodes. Lewis watches and knows he has to do something. He cannot stay silent. This is about justice, about equality. Lewis becomes an activist, takes a knee before every race.
I am claustrophobic. I'm claustrophobic, man. Working with me. God, I'm claustrophobic, man. Can you get me in the front? Please. No, you're not. I'm claustrophobic. Okay? I'm not a bad guy, man. In the car. I'm not a bad guy. You ain't gonna win. I'm gonna lay on the ground. I'm gonna lay on the ground. I'm gonna lay on the ground, yo. I'm gonna lay on the ground. I'm gonna lay on the ground. I'm going down. I'm going down. I'm going down. I'm not going to
Wears T-shirts about racial justice, and Breonna Taylor speaks about police brutality, about systemic racism. The FIA resists, says politics should stay out of sport. Lewis does not back down, says human rights are not politics. Eventually the FIA relents. Some fans love Lewis's activism, others hate it. Lewis receives racist abuse online, death threats, but he does not stop. He understands that change requires discomfort, that doing the right thing is more important than being liked. He wins the championship with 3 races remaining, his 7th world title, tied with Schumacher for the most in history. Lewis Hamilton is statistically the greatest Formula One driver who has ever lived. The robbery. Lewis Hamilton is 36 years old, 7 world championships tied with Schumacher, 1 more title and he will stand alone. The 8th championship, the record. Everything Lewis has been chasing. It is within reach. But 2021 will be the hardest fight yet. Red Bull has a weapon. Max Verstappen, 24 years old, fearless, aggressive, brutally fast. He has been in Formula One since 17, has won races, but never fought for a championship. 2021 is his chance. Red Bull has finally built him a car that can challenge Mercedes, and Max is hungry, desperate to prove himself against Lewis, to beat the legend. The season is war from the first race. Bahrain, Lewis wins. Imola, Max wins. They trade victories, trade fastest laps. The racing is spectacular. Silverstone, Lewis's home race, they collide. The crash is massive. Max hits the barrier at 51G. His car is destroyed. He is taken to hospital. Lewis wins the race. Red Bull is furious. They accuse Lewis of driving dangerously, of taking Max out deliberately. The FIA gives Lewis a 10-second penalty, but he still wins. Max and Red Bull feel robbed. The championship fight becomes personal, bitter, toxic.
That's the sight I did want to see after a very nasty collision into the tyre barriers. Max Verstappen getting out of the car. This is the accident. Oh, and it was the merest of touches, but it was enough. And look how the wheel has come loose from the rim as well. The tyres come loose from the rim.
Yeah, but what I said, it wasn't over yet, didn't I, as they came out of Luffield.
So safety car, keep the delta positive. Let us know what you need. Just turned in on me.
Racing incidents.
I wonder what the stewards will think of that.
Could Hamilton have done anything to give Max Verstappen room there and avoid that crash? He was on the inside, of course. Yeah. Was there a bit more room to the right that Hamilton should have been finding?
Monza. They collide again, both crash out. Max's car lands on top of Lewis's car. The halo saves Lewis's life. Without it, the wheel would have hit Lewis's head. The image is terrifying. Two championship contenders so desperate to win that they risk everything. The intensity is unsustainable. The season goes to the final race, Abu Dhabi. December 12th, 2021. Lewis and Max are tied on points, exactly tied, 369.5 each. Whoever finishes ahead wins the championship. If neither finishes, Max wins on a tiebreaker. The pressure is unbearable. The entire season comes down to one race. Lewis takes pole position. When the race starts, Max tries a desperate lunge. Lewis forces him wide. Max has to go off track to avoid collision. Lewis takes the lead. The stewards investigate Max, decide no investigation necessary. Lewis is furious, but focuses on the race. Lewis controls the race perfectly. His pace is measured, his tyre management flawless. With 5 laps remaining, Lewis leads by over 12 seconds. The championship is his. Barring disaster, Lewis Hamilton will become an 8-time world champion. The record will be his alone. And then disaster strikes. Nicholas Latifi crashes. The safety car comes out. The race is neutralized. All gaps are erased. Max, who was 12 seconds behind, is now right behind the safety car. Red Bull pits Max for fresh, soft tyres. Lewis stays out on old, hard tyres to maintain track position. There are lapped cars between Lewis and Max. According to the regulations, lapped cars are allowed to unlap themselves under safety car. This usually takes time. If all the lapped cars unlap, the race will likely finish under safety car. Lewis will win. But race director Michael Massey makes a decision. Initially, he says lapped cars will not unlap. Lewis has a buffer of cars between him and Max. Then, with 1 lap remaining, Massey changes his mind. He allows only the lapped cars between Lewis and Max to unlap themselves. Not all lapped cars, just the specific ones blocking Max. This is against the regulations. The rules state if lapped cars unlap, all must unlap. Not some, but Massey does it anyway. 1 lap remaining, Lewis on old hard tyres, Max right behind on fresh soft tyres, no buffer cars. The championship will be decided by a 1-lap sprint, green flag. They accelerate towards turn 5. Max has newer tyres. He makes the move, overtakes Lewis. Lewis tries to fight back, but the tyre difference is too much. Max wins the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Max wins the 2021 World Championship. Lewis finishes second, after leading for 57 of 58 laps, after controlling the entire race, after doing everything right. Lewis loses on the final lap because of a decision by the race director that violated the sport's own regulations. Lewis sits in the car for minutes, does not want to get out, does not want to face what just happened. When he finally climbs out, he congratulates Max, shows grace. Mercedes protests, argues the race direction violated regulations, that the championship was decided by an illegal procedure. The stewards dismiss the protests. The FIA launches an investigation into Massey's decisions. Weeks later, they conclude Massey made errors, that the regulations were not applied correctly. They remove Massey as race director, fire him for his mistakes. But the result stands. Max keeps the championship, Lewis loses. The 8th title is gone, taken away not by a faster car or a better driver, but by an administrator who broke the rules. Lewis goes silent, deletes social media, does not attend the FIA prize-giving ceremony. Rumours he will retire, that this was too much. For Lewis, this is not just a loss, it is a robbery. The most painful moment of his career, worse than 2007, worse than 2016, because those losses were fair. This one is not. The 8th championship was in his hands, and it was stolen. The activist. Before 2020, Lewis Hamilton was known primarily as a racing driver. After 2020, he became something more. An activist, a voice for change, a symbol of resistance against injustice. The transformation did not happen overnight. It was years in the making, built on a lifetime of experiencing racism, of being told he did not belong, of having to be perfect when white drivers could make mistakes. The murder of George Floyd in May 2020 was the catalyst. Lewis watched the video like millions of others, watched a black man being killed by police, begging for his life, calling for his mother, and Lewis felt it personally. That could have been him, could have been his brother, could have been any black person in the wrong place at the wrong time. He could not stay silent. Lewis spoke out immediately, posted about systemic racism, about police brutality, about the need for change. The Formula One world was mostly silent. The FIA said nothing. Most teams said nothing. Other drivers said nothing. Lewis called them out, said the silence was deafening. That neutrality in the face of injustice is choosing the side of the oppressor. When racing resumed, Lewis took a knee before every race, wore a Black Lives Matter t-shirt on the podium, used every public moment to speak about racial justice. The FIA initially tried to stop him, said drivers should not make political statements. Lewis fought back, said human rights are not political. Eventually, the FIA backed down. Lewis created the Hamilton Commission in 2020, an organization dedicated to increasing diversity in motorsport. He funded research into why there are so few black people in engineering and racing, funded scholarships, created pathways for underrepresented communities, put his money where his mouth was. He launched Mission 44 in 2021, a charity focused on supporting young people from underrepresented groups, empowering them through education, through mentorship, through opportunity. Lewis understands that one black driver in Formula One is not enough. There need to be black engineers, black team principals, black people at every level. His fashion became a form of activism, wearing outfits with messages, supporting black designers, challenging traditional ideas of masculinity in racing. When Lewis arrived at the paddock wearing a dress or a bold suit, it was not just fashion. It was a statement that he would not conform, would not fit into the box Formula One expected him to occupy. The criticism was intense, racist abuse online, fans telling him to shut up and drive, sponsors uncomfortable with his outspokenness. Some people in Formula One thought he was being too political, too divisive. Lewis did not care. He knew that athletes have a responsibility, that silence is complicity, that change requires discomfort. He spoke about mental health openly, about seeing a therapist, about struggling with depression, about the loneliness of being the only black driver. These were not topics Formula One drivers discussed. But Lewis did, because he knew other people were struggling too. Young black athletes who felt isolated, who faced racism, who questioned whether they belonged. Young black kids now see Lewis and see possibility, see someone who looks like them succeeding at the highest level. That representation matters more than anyone who has never lacked representation can understand. Before Lewis, you could count the number of black F1 drivers on one hand. Because of Lewis, there will be more, not just because he opened the door, but because he showed it was worth fighting through the racism to get there. Ferrari. 2022 and 2023 are difficult years for Lewis. Mercedes gets the regulations wrong. The car is not competitive. Lewis finishes third in 2022, second in 2023, but he is not winning races regularly, not fighting for titles. At 37 and 38 years old, time is running out. The 8th championship feels further away than ever. George Russell joins as his teammate. Young, fast, hungry. Sometimes George finishes ahead. The media questions if Lewis is past his prime, if the younger generation has surpassed him, if his best years are behind him. Lewis trains harder than ever, works with the engineers obsessively, refuses to accept that he is done, but the car is not good enough, and in Formula One, the car is everything. Behind the scenes, Lewis is thinking about his future. Mercedes has been his home since 2013. They won 6 championships together, but the 8th title is not coming at Mercedes, not quickly enough. Lewis is running out of time. He needs a competitive car now, not in 2 years, not eventually, now. And there is only one team that can give him that, Ferrari. Ferrari is the most iconic team in Formula One history, the oldest, the most successful, the dream for every driver. Ayrton Senna wanted to drive for Ferrari before he died. Michael Schumacher won 5 championships with Ferrari. The red car with the prancing horse is legendary. and Lewis Hamilton is going to drive it. February 1st, 2024, the announcement explodes. Lewis Hamilton is leaving Mercedes. He is joining Scuderia Ferrari for 2025. The biggest driver move in Formula One history. A 7-time world champion leaving the team he won 6 titles with to join their biggest rival in the twilight of his career. For one last shot at glory, the reaction is massive. Ferrari fans are euphoric. The greatest driver of the generation in the most iconic car in racing. The possibility of Lewis winning a championship in Ferrari red is intoxicating. Mercedes fans are devastated, betrayed, angry. Toto Wolff tries to remain professional, but the hurt is visible. Lewis is leaving the family. Lewis explains his decision carefully. He says it is about new challenges, about proving himself one more time, about chasing the 8th championship with the team everyone dreams of driving for. Winning with Mercedes was incredible, but winning with Ferrari would be legendary. The pressure at Ferrari is unlike anywhere else. The Italian media is brutal. The tifosi are passionate but unforgiving when things go wrong. Lewis does not care about the pressure. He has dealt with pressure his entire life. 2024 becomes a long goodbye, Lewis's final season at Mercedes. Every race could be his last in the silver car. The emotion builds throughout the year. At Silverstone, his home race, the crowd gives him a standing ovation. The final race in Abu Dhabi is tearful. Lewis thanks the team, the mechanics who built his cars, the engineers who found the speed. Mercedes has been his family for 12 years, and now it is ending. But Lewis is not retiring. At 40 years old, Lewis Hamilton will drive for Scuderia Ferrari, living the dream that drivers half his age fantasize about. The pressure will be enormous. Ferrari has not won a drivers' championship since 2007. 18 years of failure, of coming close and falling short, of making mistakes when it matters most. Lewis is supposed to end the drought at 40 years old, against drivers in their 20s. The critics say he is too old, that he should retire, that this move will tarnish his legacy when he fails. Lewis ignores them. He has been defying critics his entire life. Proving doubters wrong is what he does. The 8th championship is the unfinished business, the record he needs. And if he can win it with Ferrari, it will be the perfect ending to the perfect career. The legacy. 7 world championships, 103 Grand Prix victories, 104 pole positions, over 200 podium finishes. The numbers alone make Lewis Hamilton the greatest Formula One driver of all time. But Lewis's legacy is about more than statistics. It is about what he represents, what he changed, what he made possible. Lewis is the first and only black Formula One driver to win a championship. In a sport that has been almost exclusively white for its entire 70-year history, Lewis broke the barrier, not just once, 7 times. He proved that excellence has no color, that talent can come from anywhere, that a working-class kid from Stevenage can reach the absolute pinnacle of motorsport. Before Lewis, Formula One was a closed world, rich, white, European. The barriers to entry were enormous, financial, social, racial. Lewis kicked down those doors, not just for himself, for everyone who comes after. Every young black kid who watches F1 now sees possibility. Every minority driver now has a path. That is legacy beyond trophies. His rivalry with Michael Schumacher's records defined his career. Michael won 7 championships and 91 race victories, records that seemed unbreakable, until Lewis broke them, surpassed them. Lewis now has more wins than anyone in history. He is tied for championships. The debate about who is greater, Lewis or Michael, is endless and probably unanswerable. Different eras, different cars, different competition, both are legends. Comparing Lewis to other all-time greats is a favorite debate. How does he compare to Ayrton Senna, to Alain Prost, to Jackie Stewart, to Jim Clark, to Juan Manuel Fangio? Every generation has its champion. Lewis is the champion of this generation, the driver future generations will measure themselves against, the standard of greatness. His impact on Mercedes cannot be overstated. When Lewis joined in 2013, Mercedes was a midfield team. Together they won 6 drivers' championships and 8 constructors' championships, dominated an entire era of Formula One. The partnership will be remembered as one of the greatest in sports history. The Hamilton-Mercedes era redefined what dominance looks like. His activism changed Formula One fundamentally. Before Lewis, the sport was silent on social issues. Drivers did not speak about racism, did not use their platforms for change. Lewis changed that. He made it acceptable to have opinions, to speak out, to demand better. The sport is more diverse because of Lewis, more aware, more accountable, still not where it should be, but better than it was. The criticism Lewis faced throughout his career is part of his story too. The racism, the questioning of his achievements, the disrespect disguised as analysis. He faced all of it and kept winning, kept speaking truth, kept pushing forward. That resilience is as important as the championships. It shows his character, not just as a driver but as a man. His longevity is remarkable. 2024 is his 18th season in Formula One, 18 years at the highest level. Most drivers do not last a decade. Lewis is still competing at 39 years old, still fast, still motivated. The move to Ferrari at 40 shows he is not ready to stop, not ready to accept that his time is over. The 8th championship is the obsession, the record Lewis wants more than anything, to stand alone as the most successful driver in F1 history, not tied with Michael, above him, won more than anyone else. The Ferrari move is about chasing that record, about proving that even at 40 he can beat drivers half his age, about cementing his legacy as the greatest ever. But even without the 8th title, Lewis's place in history is secure. He changed Formula One, brought new audiences to the sport, used his platform for good, broke barriers that needed breaking, won more races than anyone, inspired millions. That is a legacy that transcends championships, that matters beyond racing. His influence extends far beyond Formula One, fashion, music, activism. Lewis is a cultural icon, known by people who have never watched a race. That crossover appeal is rare, that impact is lasting. Athletes who transcend their sport are remembered differently. Muhammad Ali, Michael Jordan, Serena Williams. Lewis belongs in that conversation. Lewis Carl Davidson Hamilton. From Stevenage to 7 World Championships, from remote control cars to 103 Grand Prix victories, from being the only black kid at the karting track to being the greatest Formula One driver of all time. The journey is almost impossible to believe, but every word of it is true. A father who worked 3 jobs, who believed when nobody else did, who sacrificed everything so his son could chase an impossible dream. Anthony Hamilton built a champion from nothing, gave Lewis more than money for racing, gave him belief, resilience, the foundation of greatness. A kid who faced racism at every level and refused to quit, who was told he did not belong and proved everyone wrong, who broke barriers not once but 7 times, who used every insult as motivation, who turned pain into power, who became undeniable through sheer excellence. 7 World Championships, a number that equals the legendary Michael Schumacher, a number that puts Lewis in a category occupied by only one other person in history, and he is not done. At 40 years old, Lewis is moving to Ferrari, chasing the 8th title, refusing to accept that his time is over. Lewis Hamilton conquered Formula One, not just with talent, not just with speed, but with determination, with resilience, with a refusal to let racism define his ceiling. He conquered it by being so good that even people who hated him had to respect him, by winning so much that the doubters ran out of excuses. His legacy is bigger than racing. It is about representation, about showing kids who look like him that they belong everywhere, about using success to create change, about being more than an athlete, about mattering beyond the sport. The 8th championship would be historic, would put Lewis alone at the top, would end all debates about greatness. But even without it, Lewis Hamilton has already won. He won the moment he refused to let racism stop him. He won the moment he broke into Formula One. He won the moment he became world champion the first time. Everything since has been proving what he already knew, that he belongs, that he is great, that he is one of one. Lewis Hamilton, 7-time world champion, activist, barrier breaker, legend. This is how he conquered Formula One, by refusing to accept anything less than greatness, and by making the sport better for everyone who comes after.